Okay, today I'm going to be packing a crate for Shipment. So this is a crate that I just made, I custom made it for UPS. So it goes under the dimensions of UPS, 130 inches. So this side and that height, if you double those, they don't equal over 130 inches. They're less than 130 inches in girth. So I'm going to save about $75 by having that dimension the way it is. Otherwise, if I go over the dimension, I'm going to get hit with that extra $75 fee because I'm going from Zone 1, which is in California, basically Huntington Beach, okay, to Zone 8, which is the furthest point into Florida, Miami. So about the two furthest points away from each other in the United States, this thing's going to be traveling across the state, so it's probably about 3,600 miles or so to get there. And to do that, I want to make sure it's going to get there in one piece. From there, it's going to go from Florida down into Mexico. So that's why I built a crate. So I wanted to make sure it was going to survive 2 trips. So these are the pieces to the saw. I've disassembled it now so that it fits into there. If I shipped it as a whole saw, it'd go over the dimensions. It'd go over the weight. I'd have to ship it freight. It would just be a whole nother expense. So I'm going to pack up each separate piece. I'm going to stuff them in that crate. And I'm going to make sure that they don't move around once they're in there. Okay, so the materials that I'm using are, I like to use this stuff. This is the white foam. If you use bubbles, they're not NEMA rated, so if you have a freight claim against somebody, if somebody gets damaged and you use bubbles, good luck getting your money because those are not NEMA rated. This stuff is rated. It has a density. It has a sturdiness to it. You don't have to worry about bubbles popping here because this is, it's like tiny little bubbles inside, but they're not going to burst like the big bubbles will, or even the small bubbles. And if you've ever played with those, you know what I mean. Okay, so basically, I'm going to pack stuff within stuff. So this is the bottom frame of the saw. I'm going to pack these pieces into the bottom frame of the saw, and then I'm going to pack an arm in there, and then I'm going to pack finally the head of the saw. And I've got some hardware attached to this. I wanted to make sure that the buyer can locate the hardware, so I'm going to tape the hardware, make sure it's secured. I'm going to have it in its original positions so that he knows where the hardware goes. So basically, I'm just going to start taking pieces. I'm just going to start wrapping them up. I'm going to stuff them into the works of the frame. So I'm going to integrate this package as much as I can, and let me see here. Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, it does have that. Okay. Like these guys, I could tape them up too, but since I'm just jamming them in there, oh, here I need to go the other way with it also. Yeah, I will tape them up. And then finally, after I do that, I'm going to wrap the frame itself. I'm not worried about the frame getting damaged. What I'm worried about is the frame rubbing against, the other parts of the saw. Because this has, nice scales on it. The scales are all intact and everything. I want to make sure that they arrive in that condition because that's the condition that I'm guaranteeing this saw to be in. And, if you've ever done any business with eBay, those buyers are very, very selective about how their shipments arrive to them. Even though this is kind of third party going to Mexico, I still want to have a good name out there. I want to be able to have somebody that's going to enjoy it and going to think, hey, that guy really did he really did what he said he was going to do, even down to the packaging of the item itself. So that's why I go through the extra trouble of building custom crates when I have to, and a lot of the stuff that I do is bigger stuff, so it's not unusual for me to have to build a crate. It's been a while since I've done one, but it's something that I've done a lot of. You have a career as a shipper, so that's how I know about this, about the materials, about the techniques that are involved, and the weight, the dimensional weights, and all that good stuff. You really got to know what you're doing when you're shipping stuff because you can get eaten alive by expenditures and things that you just didn't do right up front. So, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the video off right now. I'm going to pack everything, and then we're going to come back to when it's all packed. And oh yes, those are the legs back there in that box there. That's the legs for the saw. The saw looks just like one of these guys. It's a radial arm saw. It's a newer model saw, so it looks just like one of these legs and everything. So that's basically what we're working with here, radial arm saw. And we've got some challenges here. There's an arbor that sticks out here. This plastic stuff has to be protected. That's the legs right there. So, I'm just going to pack that crate as tightly as I can, make sure nothing moves around, and we're going to come back to where this part's all wrapped and ready to go. All right, so I've wrapped the frame for the table, okay, and I wrap a couple of pieces inside of there along with the saw blade, which I actually rolled this around there, and I wrapped the saw blade especially because I didn't want it to cut anything while it was in there or roll around. These are the other two pieces here, okay, so they're taking up that side of the box. They almost go up to the top of the box here. So basically I'm going to probably put the little this piece, I'm going to probably put that piece up here, and that's going to pack that in. It's going to make sure it doesn't shift up and down. Then the saw body and this column are going to go in the remainder of the space. And whatever space is left over, I'll probably put some foam into so it doesn't shift around, and then I'll seal up the crate. So these pieces here are part of the saw table. I'm going to wrap those. I'm going to put those on the very bottom so that nothing comes into contact with, no, I'll probably put them in the top. I'll put them on top of the saw body. And the reason is because this is plastic, so I don't want this to come in contact anywhere inside the crate. Now there's going to be, well, actually there won't be any side loading because this part here extends beyond the body of the plastic. And the end here, I'm going to pack it extra good so that I've got some extra padding up there. The motor and stuff like that, that's pretty rugged. There's a little bit of plastic here, but it's not really exposed. Just going to make sure that everything's wrapped and everything's packed tightly once it gets inside that crate. And so I'm going to continue on now. So the next step, I think what I'll do is I'll probably end up wrapping that part, and then the saw body will go on top of that part, and then that part and this part will go on the very top. So I'll return once I've done that. Okay, so I've packed the body of the saw. That's right here. The column that I had is right underneath the saw. That's the base of the saw. There's a bunch of room in here, so I did make this box a couple of inches larger than I thought it needed to be, just so I could fit everything. What I'm going to do with the empty space is I'm going to end up stuffing some of that in there, but densely. I'm going to crinkle it up. I'm going to stuff it in there, and I still have the guard for the saw. I'm sorry. Here's the guard for the saw, and then the other two trim pieces to go in there, and then these pieces here, which this supports the table, and then this is the turn piece to turn up the column and down the column. I'm going to wrap those separately just so they take up more room in that crate. That way I put as little packing in there as possible because I want this thing to be pretty jam-packed. This saw looks like it's pretty good side to side. Well, I'm gonna stuff some stuffing in the side here, and then I'm going to put some on the top. I'm going to put the pieces in there, like this saw blade guard here. I'm going to put this in the side, right on the side here. So it's going to take care of that space, okay? And then I'm going to put, I'm just going to have to kind of work it out to where this box is stuffed as much as it possibly can be. And, there's a little bit of space that I'm going to have to deal with here, so that's fine. But it packed in okay. I'll just have to put in a little bit of fluff to make sure that nothing is moving around. So once I have it packed in, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so I've stuffed the other pieces that I mentioned in there, and now everything is packed in. It actually packed in pretty good. I would probably, if I was going to do this box again, I'd probably make it about, I would say, 1.5 inches shorter, tall and widthwise. But you get the idea here. So I'm going to stuff it in with this stuff. Then I'm going to jam that lid on top. I'm going to make it so that I have to push the lid on so that everything is compacted and that nothing shifts. And nothing is shifting the way it is right now, so we're good to go. And then the final step is I'm going to go ahead and screw the crate together, and it's going to be ready to go. I'm going to label it and everything. So now the crate is stuffed with the foam, so I know that everything is good from end to end, side to side, top to bottom. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and seal the crate up because the foam is stuffed in there. And one thing about this foam here, this foam is Obviously it's made to take up space and to protect what you do, but it mainly protects what you do by taking up space so that there's more space, more cushion between something that's potentially going to crash against the item that you're trying to protect. So it's designed to smush and slow down that impact, okay? So if you roll the foam, it's not going to make it as an effective a cushion as if you crinkle the foam. So that's what I did when I stuffed the inside of the package, because it's going to take up more room this way. There's going to be more air in between the things. I did make sure that I crinkled it and then I can push it down. I wanted to make sure that I had to push down on it with a certain amount of weight just to be assured that it's not going to move from top to bottom. So that's how I packed this carton. And this stuff is really super light. It's great stuff. You know, if I was a professional shipping operation, I'd blow foam in there, that blow-in type foam that has two parts, you know, and it squirts in there and takes up all the space, but that's just not what I do here. So this is how I do it. Okay, so to cinch it down, you know, basic procedures. In case you missed my crate building video where I actually built this crate as a demo, make sure to watch that if you're interested in building crates. But for the purposes here, all I'm doing is showing how it's packed. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and push down on it. I got to put my weight on top of it, and then I'm just going to drill a couple of holes in the sides. And I kind of go in at an angle here because I want to make sure it bites the wood correctly. If I go straight, I stand a chance of splitting the wood. I'm just going to go ahead and pump it in there. Do it on the other side, and then I'm going to go ahead and screw in the screws. So I'll just take this off live while I have it in that position. But I end up having two screwdrivers. One is just as a driver, you know, as a screwdriver, and then the other one as an actual drill. Okay, so that side is sealed. Now I'm going to seal the back side, same way, and then I'm going to go ahead and put in 5 screws. There'll be a total of 5 screws on this side, maybe an extra one for the ends here, and then a total of 5 screws on the other side. And this thing will be totally sealed and ready to go down the road. I'll come back when it's done. Oh yes, so in case you're wondering why I screwed it in the side like that, just to pack this down and to get this pushed down in here and to keep the lid on it, you know, I just choose the two long sides to push the lid onto it so that they hold it in, and then I'll just go ahead and screw all the way around it, so that in case you're wondering about that. I am going to drive in the second screw that's going to hold the lid down. Okay, so now the lid is held down. Now I can go ahead, I don't have to worry about pushing it down or anything, you know, using my weight to push it down. Well, maybe on the ends here because it's got a little bit of a corner here, but anyway, I can run all the screws in there, and then I can do it until I'm finished, which means, you know, like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's going to be 5. Same on the sides, same on the back side. And the rest of it's already screwed together. Okay, so the final result is I've got 5 screws on all sides, up and down, bottom, top, everywhere, okay? The screws that are showing on the outside are the screws that hold the panels together as panels. The screws on the inside are what hold these trim pieces on. When I screwed in, I was making sure that I was not going to hit any of the internal screws because that could, you know, cause some problems or maybe even split the wood, so I was very careful about it. Now is the true test. Okay, so I'm lifting the package up. I'm going to lift it up in all 4 directions, but I'm just going to make sure that the weight's not shifting inside, and it's not. It's tightly packed. And the reason I'm lifting it right now is because I'm going to put it on the scale and see how much it weighs. I'm expecting that it's going to weigh less than 150 pounds because I weighed everything separately, and then I added all the weight up, and it added up to about 148, 149 pounds. So we were just going to be underweight here for UPS's 150 pound weight maximum. Put it on the edge of the scale here. I don't really have a super duper shipper scale, so I kind of do it like this. And well, I'm a little bit off. I'm at 146 to 148 pounds. So I'm good to go. At least I know I'm underweight. UPS doesn't really put it on one of those digital scales anyway when I get there. They just accept the weight that I put on there. Sometimes they'll audit, but I know that I'm going to be under, so we're good to go. This baby's on its way to Florida, and it's going to get there in one piece, and then I'm going to package up the legs separately in a separate box, but I don't need to show you that because that's just standard shipping stuff. Well, thanks for watching the video, and I hope you learned something. Okay, some final comments on the crate. Okay, now it's all done. This is what it looks like when it's finalized. When you're putting a crate or box or whatever together, you really don't want there to be any weak sides. But if you had to choose a weak side, try to make it the top. And the reason is because that's where your labels are going to go. So that this thing, during transit, you know, they have to scan this barcode all the time. So that thing should be facing upwards at all times. At worst case scenario, it's going to be facing sidewards, but it's never going to be down. Hopefully, okay? But you pack your packages assuming that they're going to be knocked around from here to eternity, and they're going to end up upside down. And that's the way this one was packed. So I really don't have any weak sides to this, but if I had to choose a weak side, it would be the top of it, okay? The package is pretty heavy. Like I said, it's almost 150 pounds, so it's not going to be you know, thrown around, or maybe it will be. It can handle whatever is going to happen to it. This side up labels, I put those on there just to indicate which side is the right side up. I do that for two reasons. Number one, I do it so the shipper tries to keep it that side up. And number two, so that whenever it's unpacked on the other end, they know that this part here is the lid, okay? There's two packages to the shipment, so I go one of two, okay? Caution, this side up labels, one of two on all four sides, okay? The top really doesn't need this side up or a label one of two or whatever, because the shipping label itself has one of two on it. And that should actually be enough for the entire shipment. You know, I'm kind of old school. I still write the numbers on my boxes and crates and stuff like that. A lot of people don't, you know, but you know, it's a good idea to do that just in case something happens and, you know, the other end wasn't aware of how many boxes or crates or whatever they had to receive. You know, you always want to write those numbers on there. So I think I covered everything on this video about, you know, securing stuff in a crate or a pallet or whatever. You know, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching.